Yeah, we have a little bit of, oh, yeah, we'll wait. All
Right, we're gonna get started in a couple minutes. We'll get started. That's why.
Why are you sitting down there?
Because all that stuff is there. And I feel out of place, Vicky.
Yeah.
Here's the,
Usually it's over there, but I didn't want to mix all that stuff.
and who said that there?
That is.
Pretty good on water. What's under questions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to go see number 17.
There's a lot. I think we could start now.
Agenda?
It's tough to get it down.
Yeah, sandwich, and well, we're gonna go to closed section.
Oh.
All right, so we'll give Dr. Thustu a few seconds to get settled in and we'll get started. Okay, all right. Like to call to order the Tulare County Regional Transit Agency meeting of June 26, 2024. I'd like to welcome everyone. Looks like we have a full house, which is great to see folks coming out. And at this point, I'd like to ask Servando if you can help me with the roll call, please.
Sorry. They'll start off with Director Tusu.
Present.
Director Riddle.
Here.
And I got a note earlier that Vice Chair Gomez won't be able to attend, so we have Armando Hinojosa from the city of Farmville.
I'm here.
All right, Director Saros or alternate Sanchez. All right, we're down to Director Wyrock. Present. Chair Segola.
Present.
And Director Martinez.
Present.
And Supervisor McCarthy. Here.
All right, we do have a quorum, so we will continue with our meeting. Next on our agenda is a pledge of allegiance. If all can rise and join us in the pledge. There's a flag here on the west side of the building. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So next on our agenda is public comments. What I'd like to do is open it for general public comment. And then since the next item will be closed session, we'll also bring up comments for closed session as we'll go into closed session after this. So at this point, if there's any members of the public may comment on any item of interest to the public and within the subject matter of the and jurisdiction of the agency but not appearing on this agenda. Under state law, matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for board consideration. Any person addressing the board will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes so that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak with a total of 15 minutes allotted for the public comment period. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record. At this point, I will open it up to public comments. I have one.
Hi, Leslie Caviglia, 220 North Santa Fe. I'm the city manager for the city of Visalia. And we are in receipt of a memo that was issued by your director yesterday and would like to offer some points of clarification to them. First of all, the city of Visalia had no knowledge of this public hearing prior to Chance comment on late Thursday. So it caught us very much by surprise. The city of Visalia has proudly provided contract services to Goshen, Farmersville, and the community, Farmersville, Exeter, and the community of Goshen through that contract. And as we've continually indicated, I know I have to Adam, to Jason Britt, to the former city manager of Farmersville. We will gladly do that as long as that meets your need. And we're glad to give that up at any time. Similarly, with the city of Tulare, when we were doing their financial documents for them, when it became time to turn it over to the agency, we gladly did that and participated fully in that process. That will continue to be our method of operation. The City Council of Visalia did not approve an MOU. They gave the city manager authorization to sign the MOU. It was never signed, it was never returned. So there is no signed agreement between the city of Visalia and the agency. In April, the city of Visalia issued an RFP for a transit provider. It was provided to the agency, and we know that based on the comments and the questions, it was reviewed by the agency director. This RFP included a request to operate microtransit services in Visalia. The city of Visalia provided notice to the agency director that we'd be providing our own microtransit services on May 8th. This was in an email, so it was in writing. Since that time, there has been no direct interaction between the city and the agency regarding microtransit. We have not been included in the design or the service details, the pricing, the hours. We've not seen any marketing materials, all for a service that we've been told is supposed to start in Visalia on July 1st of this year. Again, the first initial inkling that we had that Visalia was still being included in your plans was on last Thursday. The city of Visalia did not renege, as the word is of course used, on our promise. We never entered into an agreement. Again, no agreement, no interaction with staff, no microtransit plan presented. We are confused about the agency's interpretation of renege. In addition, our contract for services does not end at the end of August. It ends at the end of September. We'd like to be clear about that, and we are very pleased with our options for a new provider and their commitment to service. That ends my general comments on that. Since you asked also for comments at closed session, and since the memo clearly indicated that there would be a closed session item, or he was going to ask for one on Visalia, I would ask how you could have a closed session item with an agency you have never had a contract with.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to provide public comment? Yes, sir.
Michael Maurer, Special Counsel to the City of Porterville. And I just want to reiterate some comments that we've made previously. It's, this, what the city manager from Visalia raises, these are the same issues we've been dealing with for months. As we've reached out and tried to get TCRTA staff to work with us. We've been met with delay after delay after delay. And then things happen without there being any communication with the city. And so it's really a pattern of behavior, and it's a troubling pattern of behavior. And it's a pattern that ultimately the board needs to be accountable for. And I don't mean that as in you all being held accountable. And we need to set the standards for how your agency operates and how you hold your staff to account. What kind of values you want to see this agency have. I want to reiterate, we are getting close. Obviously, it's almost July 1. Porterville will be providing its service on July 1. Progress has been made, but there's still more to do. It's June 26th now. There are things that we would like to have done months ago that are still getting done at this time. But having said that, I also want to emphasize that transit is necessarily something that's cooperative. Everyone in here can serve your constituents in the same county. Your constituents travel from county to city and from city to city. And so, we're effectively all in this together. So even though Porterville is leaving July 1, they're going to operate their own service. It's still important that there's an ongoing partnership, an ongoing spirit of collaboration and cooperation among agencies. And I know Porterville would like to see that, and we'd really like to see that improved with TCRTA. I would also like to, if I could have an opportunity to speak on the budget or the lack of a budget when the time comes. And then just to address closed session, I know there's only one item on for closed session, which is for potential exposure to litigation. Or if we could clarify if it's initiation to litigation, if we could get some clarification on what The subject of the item is, I just don't know if that involves Porterville or Visalia or which one. So if you're able to provide that clarification, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to provide public comments? Anyone online wishing to provide public comment? You can unmute yourself and go ahead and provide the comment. No one online, no one else here in the room, so public comment will be closed. So now we're gonna move on to our next item, which is the closed session item. So Tom, if you could share with us
So
agenda item.
this particular item, actually, I had not intended to approach the issue of Visalia, so if the so closed session, we just need to discuss basically a matter of just the progress of how the separation's happened.
All right, great.
You're talking about Porterville.
All right, so at this point, we will, I guess, the staff, can we use a little back room back there? So members, we will adjourn over to closed session and we'll be back as soon as we can. But we are. Okay, so our recording is in progress, so let's move on. All right, so we are reconvening from closed session and adjourning closed session and reconvening to open session. And at this point, just wanted to state that there is nothing to report from our closed session discussion. Next on our agenda is presentations. We have none, so we will move forward. Next on the calendar is the consent calendar. We have the minutes of May 20th and the monthly ridership summary. Does anyone have any corrections or comments regarding the minutes? I do have one. I believe that in the minutes, the reference to a Mrs. Miller is actually Mrs. Riddle. And so I just want to make sure that that's corrected.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was thinking of Ms. Miller, but then it should be Ms. Riddle in those minutes. Is there anyone else that has any comments or corrections for the minutes? All right, or any questions or comments on the monthly ridership numbers? We're going to talk a bit about microtransit, but I just wanted to state that I appreciate those numbers and I appreciate seeing that folks are, continuing to use our services, especially on microtransit. So that's very encouraging to see. But if there are no other questions or comments or corrections on the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
That motion, so with the correction on Mrs. Miller to Mrs. Riddle.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
A second.
All right, moved by Mr. Martinez, a second by Mr. Fustu. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any objections? Then the minutes are approved 7-0. All right, next on our agenda, members, we're going to get into a number of action items. The first one on the schedule is item number 8, public hearing on the proposed microtransit pilot phase 3 service changes. And I believe there's going to be a presentation, staff report by, is it Olivia or Clay or both?
Jenny and I.
Oh, Jenny, excuse me, Jenny and Olivia.
Thank you, Chair Segala. Good evening, members of the board. At the board meeting of January 29th, 2024, staff outlined the microtransit phasing plan consisting of 3 phases. Phase 1 involved transitioning the existing microtransit service in the Lindsay-Porterville zone to a new software platform provided by VIA. That occurred in December of last year. Phase 2 included the expansion of service to Dinuba, Wood Lake, and the North County areas, and the commingling of on-demand and paratransit services in all those zones, including the Porterville-Lindsay zone. Phase 2 service began on April 1st of that year. To give you an update on ridership over the last 2 months of Phase 2 service, microtransit ridership increased by 8.7% during the first month of April, in April. Phase 2 service. Your agenda item incorrectly states 0.7, but it is 8.7 from 3,608 riders in March to 3,922 in April. In May, we saw a marginal increase of the 0.7%. This is pretty typical of this time of the year where we see a slowing down of ridership across the board going into the summer months because children are not in school and people are on vacation. Moving on to the phase three expansion, that includes service to Tulare, Farmersville, Ivanhoe, Visalia, and South County communities, as well as a reconfiguration of the existing service in the Lindsay Porterville area and revised service hours in the Woodlake service zone. The commingling of on-demand and paratransit services or the pooling of riders and vehicles will only occur in zones for which TCRTA currently provides both services. If approved, phase 3 will go live on July 1st. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Olivia to talk about public outreach.
Yeah, so while Servando is setting up, a legal notice regarding this hearing was published in local paper, inviting the public to submit comments. And so we're gonna take a look at a PowerPoint presentation just showing, where these meet and greet sessions to inform the public, were held. Just a moment. First one was in the city of Tulare. This was held at the Tulare Library. We brought some of the poster board that you see up front, as well as info documents on how to ride transport and a general FAQ page. And again, smaller versions of those two zones. We also visited Farmersville City Hall, and again brought the posters you see at the front, as well as the same informational materials for how to ride, an FAQ page, and the 3 zones. And then you also see on the right-hand side, that's that how to ride page. It shows what the app looks like when you're downloading it on your mobile. We also visited Tipton Elementary School, which is on the next slide. These events were held across 2 separate weeks. And then we have one of our staff pictured at the table. And again, 2 of those zones are planted up top, as well as the 3rd zone was also brought. And then the very last location we visited was the Tulare County Library, located here in Visalia. Thank you. And again, same information was provided there. That's the conclusion of the PowerPoint.
And Olivia, can you mention, for the benefit of the board, which newspaper articles did we reach out to publicize these notices?
These notices went through Visalia Times Delta and Tulare Advanced Register.
Right, and I'm just asking for that clarification to sort of just close the loop on this, and that this is the FTA requirement for public notice. We fulfilled that requirement, and we fulfilled LET requirements for posting of these notices as well, which is the advance notice required to the public for comment.
I have a question. What's the results of the public outreach? Did we get any information or any data on that from anybody?
We didn't have any sort of survey, but we did interact with some members of community organizations, including the director of CSET, and we did provide information following the outreach event at the Tulare Library. For example, turnout was not super high at any of the singular events. Available to be reached for all.
Right, and then just to add on to that, I did talk to Olivia and she provided some information that I gave to my public works director and talked to our city manager about putting the notice in the 19,000 bills that go out from the city of Tulare utilities. So we're looking to hopefully in the next couple of months being able to, our utility bill, we got so many things that come in, so we're gonna attach the Spanish and English version. And hopefully it'll reach out to, well, definitely we'll go to 19,000, customers. Hopefully they'll be able to see that and participate in the program.
Pardon me, maybe I didn't understand correctly. So you don't have any data to share with like Farmersville, Visalia, the county and even the city of Tulare?
Do you mean ridership data?
Well, you had outreach, were surveys done?
We did not conduct surveys for this outreach.
Okay, so you just spoke with people, there's no data that came back to you.
Correct.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions before I open it up to public comments? Any other questions? All right, so at this point, is there, there's probably more to present, right?
That's the completion of the
Sure.
outreach.
Right.
We'll
And-
go back to Jenny.
Okay, thank you, Jenny.
Sure. So I am going to discuss service deployment now for phase 3. It includes 2 new proposed zones and 2 revised zones. The proposed zones are on the maps that are up in the boardroom and that are included in your agenda packet. And they were discussed and included at the May board meeting as well. The first proposed zone is the Tulare South County zone. Riders would be able to travel between Tulare and South County communities. Those communities are areas where TCRTA currently provides paratransit services, and they include Waukena, Tipton, Pixley, Early Mart, Alpaugh, Allensworth, and Rich Grove. The service would be commingled, so paratransit riders and microtransit riders would be using the same vehicle, and paratransit riders could book either by phone or using the app. And paratransit fares would remain $3 for all eligible riders, no matter how the ride was booked, which is what they currently pay on our paratransit only service. Service hours would align with our current local fixed route schedule, which is Monday through Saturday from 7 to 7 and Sunday from 8 to 5. And one-way fares would align with our existing microtransit fare schedule, which is a general one-way ride is $5. Trips beginning or ending at a transit center are $4, and paratransit riders pay $3. The next proposed zone is the excuse me, Visalia, Farmersville, Ivanhoe, Tulare zone. Riders would be able to travel within and between these cities. Service hours would align with our current local fixed route service hours that were gone over in the last proposed zone, and fares would remain as they are with our existing microtransit service. Although with this zone, there would be no paratransit service because there is currently paratransit service provided by another provider. Moving on to zone revisions. What was previously our Lindsay Porterville zone would now be the Lindsay Strathmore Poplar zone. Zone changes include the removal of the Porterville urbanized area and the addition of Poplar Cotton Center to the service area. Riders would be able to travel within and between Lindsay, Strathmore, Cotton Poplar, and to and from the Porterville Transit Center to ensure connection to local services in Porterville. No change to the service hours and no change to the fare structure. And finally, our last revised zone would be Woodlake. The only change there would be to extend service hours to align with our local service provision in other cities. Currently, Woodlake microtransit paratransit only runs Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 3:30. Moving on to cost. The microtransit service is expected to cost approximately $4.5 million annually, of which $2.4 million is presently committed through a 2-year CMAQ grant in the amount of $2,429,000 with using toll credits as a match. TCAG is committed to funding the remaining $1.4 million through a post-programming modification of unused CMAQ funding, which would result in an additional allocation of $1,424,000, also utilizing toll credits. With these allocations and cost savings from the commingling of services, TCRTA has a capacity to cover phase 3 expenses for the coming 24-25 fiscal year, as long as no challenges are presented in TCRTA's ability to receive funds and or to pay expenditures with respect to the 24-25 budget. It is staff's recommendation that the board conduct a public meeting to receive public comment on the proposed microtransit phase 3 service changes and adopt a resolution approving the proposed phase 3 service with a start date of July 1st. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. So do you mind if I do public hearing and then we do the board interaction? So at this point, I'm going to open up the public hearing. If anyone online is wishing to provide public comment, just unmute yourself. Anybody online? If there's anyone here in the room who wishes to provide public comments, this will be the time to do so. Any public comments online? All right, seeing and hearing no public comment for the public hearing. Well, the public hearing will be closed. Mr.
Said online.
Oh, then I sit in the room. So you. All right, so we have public comment in the room.
Leslie Cavilla, Visalia City Manager, and we would respectfully request that the Visalia portion of your proposal be at least delayed, if not removed. We have great concerns about some of the funding and whether that has actually been appropriately filed. We also have some concerns. We have no understanding of the vehicles that would be utilized and if those are appropriate for this service. And in fact, we have no details. As you might have even noticed, all of the other proposal or all of the other outreach efforts were done at cities. Here it was done at the county library, which made sense for us because the county would be involved. But not only have we not received any details on this proposal, but we have received not even a notice. They may have been publicly posted in the newspaper, but as a participating agency in what was supposed to be, if we had signed an MOU, we would have certainly expected other participation and communication, and that has certainly been lacking, let alone that there is no agreement for which you can utilize to participate in that type of program. So I'd be glad to address any questions, but we respectfully request at least a postponement.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this item? All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. McCarty?
Well, I actually have two questions. What is the cost of the program on a member agency? What's the breakdown per agency?
Supervisor McCarty, I can attempt to take that question. We have not aggregated the cost quite yet. In fact, some iteration of it is represented in the 24-25 budget sheet you have before you, which would be the A7 worksheet, which breaks down the 24-25 budget. The aggregate cost for fixed and variable costs is projected in that budget sheet. However, actuals are determined at the conclusion on a monthly basis. Therefore, there is no information as yet to provide you until invoices come in and we actualize the projected cost.
Okay. And so the second question is, what happens, what's the plan when CMAQ and TCAG money are expended? What's our plan?
Well, in the report, we mentioned that year one is covered. Of course, that leaves 2 years, the 25-26 fiscal year and the 26-27 fiscal year. The reliance on CMAQ up to this point has been for many prior years, going as far back as 2020, some of 2020, 21, 22, 23, as a few examples. So when you hear the two amounts of CMAQ funds, the 2 point and change million and the 1 point and change million, TCAG has already forwarded documentation to the FDA for the FDA to obligate those funds to TCRTA, hence the commitment for year one only. Year 2 and 3 would be when the next iteration of CMAQ comes to fruition. We would continue to have a conversation with TCAG and we would look to allocate additional CMAQ money in the current CMAQ year for fiscal year 25-26. The same would repeat itself in 26-27. Now, as we do that, the number or the amount will change. The arrangement and the discussion and the dialogue with TCAG has been that we're going to monitor the performance and the metrics of how we deliver microtransit services. That is also going to feed into the efficiency of our fixed route services. The bottom line being that as we see either increased ridership, we're going to come back and have a conversation about what do we need to tweak, and that could be a potential avenue for increasing services. More than likely, what's going to happen is we'll take a look at the numbers of ridership in this case, come back to you and say, we probably need to adjust fixed route buses in addition to micro transit vehicles so that we're reducing the cost in alignment with the ridership that we see out there.
Any other questions from any of the board members? Yes, Mr. Wyrick.
The city of Exeter not want any local service, want to do this type of service. I didn't see them in here anywhere.
They're, I think they're part of the Visalia ones. Like,
I've been bringing that up, and Adam and I have had discussions. My understanding is that you've requested budgets, we can go to TCAT funding, correct?
We're talking to TCAG and to see how we might do this. Originally, it was presented to us as a either or. From what we're doing now and whether or not to add, well, it was presented as we'd have to switch off of one or the other. But then we found out that that's not necessarily the case, so we're taking a look at that to see how we approach this.
I know one more question, pardon me. So what's our marketing plan and communication materials? What are we coming up with?
That is an excellent question. And Jenny, just briefly, if you want to touch on Archer and Hound and the plans that we have for the surveys, not fully going into detail, but there is a line item discussion for our website, our marketing plan and the surveys, but this would be a good opportunity to touch on that.
Yes, so our branding consultant, Archer and Hound, as one of their final tasks is working on a public outreach program. And originally that was set up to be agency-wide, but their contract is through TCAG, and through TCAG, we have agreed to revise that to be focused only on microtransit. So they will be providing us a plan moving forward on how to market. They will also be presenting 2 public outreach sessions in Visalia and Tulare, or to be determined at this time in this coming August. They are creating a survey which which will be passed out at these meetings, and which will also be posted on our website to continually receive feedback on the microtransit services. How people are
doing a lot
yeah.
of self-advertisement as well. 6 months ago, if you were to take a look at most of our vehicles, our buses, they still had old names and logos and contact information from their prior arrangement, time or TCAT as services. We've begun rebranding those vehicles, utilizing our advertising contractor, so that now you actually do see, if you go outside to the other parking lot as an example, fully labeled TCRTA vehicles. We're assigning QR codes to some of those vehicles, and this is just a subtle way of sending messages to the community that they can call this number to book a ride. They can take their phone and scan this QR code to be able to book a ride. And all of this is in the process of getting microtransit adopted by the general public.
Thanks.
So, and we definitely are going to be continuing, as the staff has done, to try to get some articles, and I encourage all of you to, on your social media and all your followers, to join you on a ride on the on-demand transit, and we get the word out. And I mean, that's the goal. I mean, that's why I'm asking our city to put, in our utility bills, so that the public knows that this service is available, and hopefully, it helps out. And I mean, that was our intention when we developed. So, Mr. Wyrick,
We're gonna do the need, this is gonna start pretty soon, right?
July 1st.
yeah, well, we did. Yeah, so we did a press conference in March, right? We did some press, and we'll do some stuff again. We did out a press release, right, Olivia? And like that's
All right.
Right, Mr. Wyrick, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. No, first, fine. Do we have enough vehicles currently to support all these services starting next week?
We absolutely do.
Great. Great. And then is there any draft language being drafted or, put together for the city of Visalia, maybe Porterville, for the transfers of people to move into other communities on the existing routes that are outside of TCRTA's management?
Again, an excellent question. Microtransit, as you know, is pickups at locations not transit center oriented to go to locations that are also not transit center oriented. This is no different than the public version of Uber and Lyft. We anticipate that 98, 99% of our ridership will be from their personal homes to a private entity or a private business.
Okay, and if they came into another jurisdiction, would the city receive a bill for that service that was provided into their area?
So we're now talking about 2 specific
Or would
items.
they just not be picked up in the first place? Just kind of curious.
So that is a very complicated question. What I can share with you is TCRTA, in its prior understanding with the city of Visalia, It has no desire, it has not attempted to go after any LTF funding for the city of Visalia. This would not change that paradigm or parameter. With respect to the city of Porterville, I have engaged with Mr. Tree to allow him to understand that because county buses run through the city of Porterville and that we have the ability to reroute some of those buses to run proximate areas around the boundary for the city of Porterville, that we will be engaging with TCAG and others to go after split letter allocations on 5307 funding for that basis, and to reroute our vehicles to compensate for areas of deficiency so as not to enter into an agreement with the city of Porterville, where the city of Porterville may lay claim to counties' LTF allocation of funds.
Okay, so I guess we won't. I guess there's no draft language and. But the riders wouldn't necessarily be, or they would know before they got on that they're gonna get dropped off in Ivanhoe or someplace nearby. And then we have to figure out how to get them on a portable bus or.
I think one of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Abu, but I think one of the discussions we had was to have a place in Porterville. The transit center would be the place where folks get dropped off, and then they would take Porterville's transit to the next.
That is my understanding of the
So
ask of the
similar,
city of
yeah.
Porterville, and that is what we're looking for.
Similar to the, similar to the Tule River comes down.
Sure.
I mean, excuse me, the tribe comes down and they're dropped off at the transit center. So that's kind of what the idea is at this point, at least in Porterville.
I guess if there's any agreement for the draft language yet or.
There is a draft that has been generated by the city of Porterville that was initially sent to the county and forwarded to me. I am in the process of reviewing that. I believe it was sent to me late last week.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, Mr. Houston?
As a consumer, it's like an Uber app. I want to go from point A to point B. And as politicians, we are creating hurdles for them. You go and get down a transit there and go take some other agencies. It's an inconvenience for the consumer. We have to be smarter than that. And are we so bound that this is my jurisdiction and this is my toy and that's your toy? And we don't think about the consumer. The consumer needs to go from point A to point B. It's our duty to make sure they're able to go from point A to point B and figure the rest out.
Right.
I have a very serious concern about that.
No, I definitely agree. I think the folks that I've talked to who've seen those maps and understand that you can go from, pretty much from Rich Grove all the way up to Visalia, pretty much, one stop in Tulare, hopefully at the outlet mall and they shop, and then go up to Visalia is phenomenal. I mean, or you can go from Dinuba to Rich Grove, maybe a couple hours, but you can get there, right? So, I mean, I think that's the whole reason why I think all of us voted to support this in terms of partnerships, in terms of funding, in terms of putting it together. Now, it's been rolling out. It's been out in North County and other places since March 1st. We've seen the numbers. People are using it. Folks are excited about the next phase, and I think that's where we're at in terms of what we need to do. I definitely understand Visalia's concern. I appreciate Ms. Caviglia's comments, and I think we got to figure out how that's going to move forward. And I think, we have before us a recommendation to roll it out entirely July 1st, which is literally a couple of days away. And I think that, once we get to the discussion of the resolution that's before us, in regards to new zone, I guess it doesn't have a number yet, but the Visalia, Farmersville, Ivanhoe, Tulare zone, that we kind of compromise in regards to getting it going. And then, with the end date of maybe September 30th or October 1st, so that we continue to figure out where we can develop other partnerships, other zones, right? I mean, I definitely, I will be at the Corcoran City Council tomorrow evening to talk to their council about maybe a partnership. If you're in Corcoran, in order to get to Tulare, you got to go up to Hanford, you got to go to Visalia, you got to go back down. So if there's a way for us to develop a Corcoran-Tulare partnership, I know that Kings County may be open to it, and maybe the city's open to it. We just need to figure out how we can get people around, Mr. Thuso, and that's kind of what the whole goal is. So that would be something that I would recommend on that particular one. Maybe we operate till September 30th, October 1st. And then, obviously, Visalia will move forward on what they need to do. But that'll give us an opportunity to kind of make sure that we don't lose any opportunities.
Chair, I would like to understand Visalia's objection.
Well, Ms. Caviglia is right behind you. If you'd like to ask her a question.
We've had no participation in this. No.
All right.
Your turn is on.
If you would like for me to, yes. Absolutely. So again, from my perspective, all we can do is create venues for partners to participate in. Should they choose not to show up at those venues, I can hardly or scarcely make those partners appear. Maybe there is a misunderstanding in terms of what the city of Visalia's expectation of us was versus the avenues that we've created for that participation. If that is the case, I will be the first one to apologize if that misunderstanding is on TCRTA's part. Nevertheless, from my perspective, if we're considerate of the general public and we're looking to create a seamless ability to access many of the urbanized areas along with the non-urbanized areas, then this is what we do in transportation to fulfill unmet needs. And as of July 1st, with the exception of the city of Porterville's boundary, the entire county is covered with microtransit, and TCRTA is the one doing that. A plan that should have taken 3 years to do, we've been able to accomplish in 6 months. Fully understand that the city of Visalia is looking to do and will be able to do with a new contractor service provisions for microtransit as of October 1, which means that there is 3